Yeah, it's in progress now, and
There we
everyone,
go.
right, and just to know everyone that we are going to record this and we're going to put this on the internet, including YouTube. So it's up to you if you want your image to be on that or not. If you don't, you can take your image off and just do the audio part of that. It's up to you. Thank you all for coming, and for the most people, we'll be recording that and then sending the recording out to the entire list. So, okay, here we go. I'm going to start it. Hello and welcome to Disclosure Network New York. We are a UFO, ET, paranormal research group, deep research. We've been going here in Manhattan for, it looks like, 27 years. 27 years of meeting every single month, of sharing information, photographs, personal stories about our deep interest in research on this incredible subject. Uh, 27 years ago, most people thought it was a very niche thing to be interested in, but times have certainly changed. If you look at your newspapers right now, your media, it's all abuzz with all these various items going on, and the public is getting much more interested now in the subject matter that we were interested in 27 years ago. So that's how things go. I co-founded this group, uh, and we did this because I was on a committee to bring Dr. Stephen Greer for his first talk to Manhattan. And I worked with the publicity department. Dr. Greer came in, gave an amazing, amazing talk. It filled an auditorium, including the balcony. He was incredibly dynamic, a very good speaker. And after it, my committee was saying goodbye. And another woman and I said, wait a second, why are we saying goodbye and breaking this up? We should say what's next, especially in Manhattan. So that's when we decided to form a group, a grassroots group called Disclosure Network New York. We now have members all over the world, as a matter of fact, which I'm very happy to tell you. We have some very deep researchers, people who are very publicly known, who are part of our membership. And I'm very proud of everyone who's been a part of this incredible group. It's one of the highlights of my life is to be part of Disclosure Network New York. Today, we have a very dynamic speaker, which is going to give a presentation, and then we'll have a Q&A for people who have a question that are attending this meeting here. Um, Mark Kimmel is a longtime friend, an amazing speaker. He spoke to our group live in Manhattan when he was in this area, and he now lives in California. Mark, a very, very warm welcome to you, sir.
Nick, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. I love the energy of this New York crowd. They, it's so different than the California people I associate with on a regular basis. So happy to be here, Nick. Looking forward to this whole hour and a half, whatever it turns out to be.
Well, we're honored to have you here. And Mark, as you know, I'm also a member of your network, and I do 2 Zoom meetings with your group each month, and that is one of the highlights of my month. So I just wanted to tell you that it means a great deal to me to be part of your group too.
We're happy to have you, Nick. You're a wonderful contributor.
So, okay, so if you want to set it so that we are seeing if you want to put it in a different way to do your slides, or if you want to start to control that, you should be able to do that now.
So I will go and let's see what we can come up with.
Okay,
Here we go.
okay, great. Not seeing a change at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're going on here.
Wait, there is a change. Now, here we go. Now, you've done it, Mark. This is perfect. Thank you.
Okay, here we are.
There we go.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, everybody on board?
We are.
All right. So today, the title is Planetary Restoration. And I hope by the time we're through with this whole conversation, everybody will understand why I'm using that title. Again, my name is Mark Kimmel. You can look me up on the internet. I have 8 books in Amazon. You can find my books. You can find my earlier talks. A number of those are listed also. So let's get started here. The early part of my life was focused on third dimension. I had a career in high technology and finance. Uh, that was my whole focus up until about 1996. Uh, the magnetic stripe credit card. I am the person who invented, if you want to call it that, putting stripes on the credit cards. We did the very first one when I was at 3M Company. I left 3M Company and went to a small company in California where we came up with the first swipe reader, which is the kind of readers you have next to the checkout. And then we also went as part of the magnetic stripe thing and created the first, we called them currency vendors. You now call them ATMs. The first one of those was installed in City National Bank in Columbus, Ohio. I then was involved I had my own venture capital company. And one of the things I'm the most proud of to have invested in, if you've been to the hospital or a doctor's office recently, they'll put a small device on your finger to measure blood pressure oxygen. I gave 2 young men the first money to get that started. They invented the first oximeter. They were in Boulder, Colorado at that time. And it is now, the oximeter has now become a standard of care throughout the world. As a part of my venture capital business, I invested in 50 early stage companies, uh, all high-tech, all high technology, everywhere from uh, semiconductors to electronics to software. At one time, I had $80 million to invest. I received that from large companies like Exxon, Mobil, Ford, their pension funds, as well as pension funds from several states. Then on July 17th, 1996, there was a 180-degree change that took place. I basically woke up and said, okay, I've had enough of this venture capital business. I'm going to go do something else. I quit my focus on technology and business. Needless to say, my uh, friends, my business associates were not happy with that, but I went ahead and did it anyway. Now, I did not know it at the time, but what had happened at that moment was Zen, XEN, who was from Andromeda, came into my body. So I now have an Andromedan cohabitating in my physical body. Zen was not physical. Zen was in a non-physical being. As a result of that, I looked around and said, I've got to figure out what's going here. I went back to school to get to go for a master's in psychology. I figured, okay, maybe after a year or two of studying this, I can figure out what's going on with me because I really didn't understand at that time. I didn't know about XN at that time. That came later. So I was simply mystified. This is my first book, Trillion. Trillion happened because I was typing a research paper for my academic work for my master's, and all of a sudden out spilled a book out of my computer. 90 days later, I had the makings of a book. Now, I had never written anything like that before, so I had to go back to school. I went back to school and took courses in creative writing. I came up with a manuscript eventually after having it thoroughly trashed by several very experienced editors and the book Trillion. I was able to use the manuscript or Trillion as my master's thesis. Trillion, along with my other books, is available at Amazon. Now, I had gone with sea setting. This is Stephen Greer. I had gone for my first time with Stephen. What happens with Stephen is you go out into the field at night. In that particular case, my first event was there were 40 of us. I was sitting next to Stephen at that time. Excuse me. And all of a sudden, I saw a laser come across the field of my vision. And Stephen said, "Look up there. Look at that." And I looked up into the sky, and here was a very bright star. It looked like a star. And he said, "That's kindness, a friend of mine." And so this guy, it went and corkscrewed out of this atmosphere way onto space. I have now written 11 books. You can find them on Amazon and also other places. Chrysalis was done. And interestingly enough, this was the #1 seller at the Roswell, New Mexico E-Taste Museum for a number of years. Chrysalis is about angels, ETs, and us. Interesting mixture, and we'll get into what that's all about. I've had a large number of communications with extraterrestrials, about 200. They are very friendly. They are giving me comments about what they see in our society, what we are doing to the planet. They're very disturbed what we're doing to the planet. We're very disturbed how we treat each other. They're very disturbed how we go and allow the dark energy to go and influence us. I've made a number of presentations in Canada, Mexico, Costa Rica, and then, of course, several around quite a few presentations around the United States. My wife Heidi and I were at a conference in Arizona in Phoenix. And somebody said, "Mark, you've got to go. You have to stop at the airport vortex in Sedona." So we stopped at the airport vortex. It's called the airport vortex. It's on the road to the airport. If any of you have been to Sedona, it's covered with giant red rocks, wonderful hiking opportunities. So we parked the car. I got out of the car. I walked over to a large board that was put there by the Forest Service. And I touched my finger to that board, and all of a sudden something grabbed a hold of me. It was oh, I had been lassoed. It pulled me up. I could not have done anything. I would basically fallen in line. The force was so incredible. And I stumbled up. We probably walked about a quarter of a mile up the side of the mountain on a very narrow trail. And then it stopped. And so I looked out. I was looking at a very deep canyon. And the voice said to me, "We just want to let you know that everything we have been telling you is right, is true. It may not be the way you expect it to be, but everything we are saying to you is true. And then the energy dissipated. I walked very carefully because the trail was very narrow, walked back down to my car, took a deep breath, and thought, wow, what an experience that was. Some of the things I have learned as a result of my communications and my investigations is that quantum particles, quantum means subatomic, the atomic particles, subatomic particles, quantum shaped particles are reality, the building blocks of the physical universe. These quantum particles are very small, very tiny. They are only now being discovered by our scientists. There are great non-physical beings. They have various names. Some people call them creator gods. Anyway, they are the ones who take the quantum particles and make them into light, atoms of light, make them into molecules, and make them into physical beings, to planets, and to galaxies. It's all based on quantum particles. The rest of the universe, once you leave our planet, functions according to something called the schematic of Source. Source gave all of these great beings of light the charge of creating the physical universe, the galaxies, the planets, the individuals, according to the schematic of Source. Elsewhere in the cosmos, everything functions based on light and love. Everything is based on light and love. Our planet, Earth, is a very unique exception to that. Earth started as a 12th dimension planet several billion years ago. That was the beginning of Earth. It was created as a beacon, if you will, for the rest of the Milky Way galaxy. And other planets were encouraged to follow the lead of Earth. Dark energy, which had become, which had happened to those beings that were living contrary to the schematic of Source. Dark energy, it still exists today, is on our planet, is on several other planets. Not many. 99% of the rest of the universe functions according to the schematic of Source. There were some dark energy beings that had come from other planets. They came to Earth and Earth fell. It fell out of 12th dimension. It fell down, 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 and almost self-destructed. There were several beings that came, semi-physical beings that came and said, all right, rather than just completely destroying Earth, we're going to put it into a deep freeze until we can figure out what to do with it. So this deep freeze continued for 1,000,000 years. Deep freeze. Nothing survives that deep freeze in terms of physical. No, nothing other than the very smallest of atomic particles. So Earth was in a deep freeze. The creator gods then came along and created a third dimension Earth. And they said, we're going to try something that has never been done before. We're going to create a third dimension planet, and we're going to give the beings on that planet a mission to return Earth to 12th dimension. And so that's where we are today. We are a part of this mission of returning Earth to the 12th dimension. So we're all familiar with third dimension Earth because we live there. My definition of third dimension is, yes, it's physical, but more importantly, it's the way we relate to each other. It's based on fear and separation. Most of the humans on this planet of ours are well aware of fear and separation. We all have some of that contacting our lives. So in addition to the physical entities like our bodies and the physical things we have, such as this wonderful internet, it's still based on fear and separation. The third dimension humans of 500,000 years ago were very primitive, much more so than our scientists are able to go and talk about. There's very little evidence of them because they did not live in stone or anything like that that was preserved. They basically lived in nature. That's it, in nature. Now, the way back to 12th dimension is to achieve higher consciousness based on love and light. So for the rest of this talk, I'm going to focus on what can we do to get back to 12th dimension? How do we achieve higher consciousness? How do we go and overcome the tremendous third dimension that everyone is existing in? No, you have to exist in third dimension physically, but you don't have to exist in it in terms of how you think and how you behave. Many of the people that are functioning in third dimension, there's a group of them that are seeking to control Earth and humanity. These are the Illuminatis, the others, dark individuals. They want to control Earth and humanity for their own use, be it money or power. And I think I don't need to go any further. All of you that are listening to this or watching this know exactly what I'm talking about. Those people that are committed to functioning in third dimension, that seek to control either through government or corporations or the monetary system. They seek to control Earth and humanity. I'm being told as I present this, we are at the turning point in the 500,000 year history of humans on this planet. I have a habit. I wake up every morning and I give gratitude that I am here, that I am part of this whole process, that I am being allowed to be a part of this. And I would encourage you to think in those terms. No, this is not a terrible place to be. It's a turning point. We have a large contribution to make in the 500,000 years that humanity has been on this planet. It has been coming to this point at this moment. The chaos that all of us are experiencing is intentional. It's trying to destabilize everything. Those are the ones that would create us, ones that would control us. They're increasing the chaos. whether it's from COVID-19, whether it's the monetary system, whether it's false information given out on the internet. Chaos is intended to destabilize everything, and everyone is affected. No one is no one is unaffected. Even those people in a monastery in Tibet are affected by the chaos. No one cannot be affected. However, there are higher consciousness people. There are groups that I'm aware of. One of the groups like Nick has, the higher consciousness people. They're not 12th dimension. No, they're not 12th dimension, but they're higher consciousness than third. And there are groups of them that I are aware of, groups all over the planet. And then I say, yes, the ascent of feminine. Masculine tends to dominate. Masculine tends to want to control. Feminine tends to want to go and interact. So yes, we will see an ascent of the feminine. And we will see advancement of humanity and the ascension of Earth. Excuse me. Those functioning in third dimension have trapped humanity into believing third dimension is the only way to live. You see that on the television, you see that on the internet. This is all we have. You're trapped. This is all, there is nothing else. So we have to move beyond that. We have to go and help people understand there's something more than third dimension. If you will understand who you really are, understand who you really, really are, this is the first step. Think of yourself as a great soul in a human vehicle. It's like the soul is in the driver's seat of a vehicle. It's very much that. You are not you, the physical you is not who you are. What is really you is the great soul. Now, this soul of yours has had many other lifetimes in other vehicles, physical, semi physical, on other planets. Your soul that you live with on a daily basis has had many other lifetimes in other vehicles. Your great soul knew its mission when it agreed to come to this planet. It knew that what it was going to do was to help transform this planet back to 12th dimension. So at your very core, you know that that's the mission you're supposed to be following. Now, if you are caught in third dimension, you ignore all of this. It makes no sense to you. But if you get in touch with your soul, ask your soul, how can I get in touch with you? Yes, that's very possible. So now I ask the question, what does this mean to you? What does it mean to you as you're in your daily life? I get up every morning and I get in touch with my soul. And I go through, I work with the chakras. And I say the chakras, okay, this is what we are doing today. This is what we're going to live today. So I encourage you to do that. Do that on a daily basis, and you will be surprised at what it means to you, you will live your life differently. And so I say to you, when you understand who you really, really are, you will no longer fear death. I have a completely different look at death that's happened since I was directed onto this track in 1996. Death to me is simply transitioning to my the next lifetime because I think of myself as who I am, not my physical body. And once you begin to think like that, it makes a whole lot of difference. So when you understand who you really are, you will find peace and love, and you will function from your heart, not your head. You will go and look at things and say, does this match my heart? I look upon my heart as a truth meter. It tells me, is this to my benefit or not? Is this something I can deal with on a regular basis or not? So when you understand who you really are, you will find peace and love in your heart. And then you understand others as your brothers and sisters. You will look at them much differently. You will see each other as souls walking in a physical vehicle. And then, if you understand who you really are, you will live in harmony with others. And I mean with others. It doesn't matter whether they are friendly or or not. You can still live in harmony with them because you know who you really are and you will not allow them to affect you. So your job at this moment is to assist others to understand who they really are. Do you see that is something you can do now that you understand who you are? Can you go and explain to others who they really are? Can you go and wake up in the morning saying, okay, I'm going to interact with people today. I'm going to set an example for them. That's one of the most important things. Set an example. That's assisting others. You can do that totally unconsciously. You don't have to get on a street corner and wave a flag or anything like that. You don't have to give talks. All you have to do is be yourself. And unconsciously, you will affect people around you. When there are enough of us who really know they are, third dimension can no longer control humanity. That's my message for today. Think about this. If we can go and get enough people to exist in higher consciousness where they are unaffected by third dimension, then the third dimension, those who want to control us, no longer can because we will not interact with them or react to them. It's a very simple process, but it's something we can all undertake to do, and we can affect humanity. Think about this. What a what a wonderful time to be alive that we can affect the future of humanity. Each of us has that potential. I cannot think of a more wonderful time to be alive than right now. Yes, there's all kinds of unfavorable things going on, all kinds of things that don't seem to go and make sense. The chaos is very extreme at this moment, more so than any other time in the past 500,000 years. But that's because this is the moment. So I encourage you, every one of you, think of what you are doing. Think of who you are, and then send that energy to others. Send your energy to them. Focus on the higher consciousness. As I said before, there are groups of humans all over the planet. They're in this country. I'm aware of at least 12 different groups who are working for the best for humanity. These groups are not widely known. They are very quiet, but yet they are working for the best. I know that we are getting assistance from archangels and extraterrestrials. I am getting information on a daily basis from Archangel Michael, from Yeshua, from Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Uriel. I have conversations with extraterrestrials. I talk to ZN, XN. You can do this if you decide. If you believe you can do it, that's the first step. A wonderful person was sitting and having lunch with her, and all of a sudden she began to get a message. And she was talking to me. She was channeling information to me. And I said to myself, if she can do that, then I can do that. And so I say to each one of you listening to this, it is possible for you to go and do the same thing I am doing. You can do it. If you believe you can do it, you can do it. And then on top of everything else, there are energies coming to Earth at this time. Our scientists believe that they are coming from the sun. No, the sun is a gigantic transducer. It takes the energy from the center of the Milky Way galaxy and turns it into something that we can make use of. So we have energies coming, and the extraterrestrials are directing it to each of us where we can use this energy positively. This is something we all can be involved with. This is something that each one of us can partake of. Know that this is ongoing. Know that you are in the middle of this. This is what is going on for you. So I say to you, what are you doing to assist the mission of your soul? What is it you are doing? Your soul has a mission. What is it you are doing on a daily basis? Again, my name is Mark Kimmel. This is my website, cosmicparadigm.com. I have about 900 people who are part of the Cosmic Paradigm Network. They're all over the planet. I communicate with them. I have Zoom gatherings. As Nick said, there are several of those per month. And here's my email if you wish to communicate with me. I would encourage you to come back. Give me your input. With that in mind, Nick, I would open myself to questions.
Mark, I have to tell you that your wonderful talk has been deeply inspiring, deeply inspiring. I cannot thank you enough for this talk today. Your words reflect the motto right from 27 years ago. Our motto for Disclosure Network New York was connecting the dots to seek truth. That is our motto. It's certainly rings true today even more. And you have absolutely focused on the heart of our mission, all of our missions here on this planet, and it again deeply, deeply inspiring. I'd like to open it up again for questions now. So if you could unmute, and if you could raise your hand, we can go around and see what your questions are. Doreen, go ahead, please. You're first.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Mark. That was very interesting, but there are things that I'm not quite clear on. You mentioned that you were indwelled by a being. You didn't, in your talk, I didn't hear, do you believe there is a universal father, God? Because you mentioned all these beings, and I think you did say a creator, but when we talk about the soul, and I thought the Spirit of God indwells us, and that helps to grow our soul and has a plan for our life. Is this where you're coming from as well? I'm not quite sure.
Okay, let's take it one step at a time.
Okay.
There's a being, a great being that I call Source. And I
Okay.
talk about the schematic of Source. When Source set out to create the universe, it created all these other beings to assist. And so, yes, very definitely there is a God.
Okay.
But I don't use the word God because it is so uh, misused. Okay, so I use source. There is a single source, no doubt about that. An original creator. I do not believe that there is a Big Bang. I believe that the universe has been created very deliberately over billions of years, one step at a time. If you read my book Aeon, I go through all of this in some detail about the different creator beings that have gone and helped to transform the world from uh, the very smallest atoms. If you could think of yourself, okay, you're made up of atoms. Well, those atoms have been collected from all over the universe. So you have connections with other beings through your atoms, through your quantum. And then if you look at the quantum thing, there's quantum entanglement. If you look up that quantum entanglement, you'll find that you're entangled. Well, that makes me understand that I am not different than anyone else. I'm not separate. I'm very closely allied with everyone.
Yes.
Does that help?
Oh, yes, I believe the same thing. I believe we're all connected. If there is one creator, then we're all children of that creator. Therefore, we're all connected to one another. So I do understand it, but now, so I understand there's stages that we go through. I mean, a lot of the stuff you're talking about, I've had transformations all along the way, and things happen that I never would believe. I mean, I was brought up an atheist, so therefore, I didn't have any preconceptions. But when things started to happen and insights and third eye opening up, and I've seen the future and things like that, and then things did happen, but they showed me ahead of time. In other words, prepare me, I suppose. And there was lots of things. And when you said, we're not in a body, well, definitely I had out of body experiences, and I'm really up there and looking at this form laying on my couch, and I understood at that moment, yes, there is no death. We separate from just this material form that has outgrown, their time here, but we go on. So, I mean, there's so much, that I had, but Another question, and I don't know if anybody's,
May I make a comment, what you just said? If you've had an out-of-body experience, all that does is to reinforce the fact that you are a soul
yeah,
with a physical body.
Yeah.
It just reinforces it.
yeah.
Now, back to your question.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, why you, number one, if you said this being just came into you and here, it changed your whole life, why do you think you were picked for that to create something to lead people into a higher consciousness? Why did they ever explain why you?
Can I give you 3 words?
Sure.
Damned if I know.
Yes, I know. Okay. Thank you.
Mark, put your microphone a little closer to your mouth because the volume, I want the volume to be higher.
How about that, Nick?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Hal, would
Okay.
you like to ask a question, please?
Yeah, I have very much lack of understanding of the 12th dimension in that what I've read and other people who have talked about it, it's an almost non-physical dimension. So if that is the case, then is Earth going to, or the people on Earth going to be, yeah, I'm sorry, transform into almost purely spiritual beings? Because you also mentioned, and again, I may be totally misunderstanding this, that when we reach this position of light and life, uh, we won't be controlled by the people who rule the third dimension, but you still have a physical body and you still have needs, medical, food, etc. So how does this fit together?
Our physical bodies will evolve into 12th dimension. We lose our physical bodies to, as we know them, at about the 7th dimension. And from that place forward, we are in semi-physical bodies. I've had the privilege of experience 8th dimension. In 8th dimension, you don't have a solid physical body. The way in which Jesus was able to go through the crucifixion was that he was able to put himself into a higher state of consciousness. And so the things that were done to his physical body did not impact the real Jesus, if you will, Yeshua. All of us can ascend to this higher level of consciousness. And indeed, that's where we were to begin. We were in a higher level of consciousness. Now, that I think the best way to think of it is semi-physical, where you basically could put your hand through things. Okay, there's still some physicality and you can see it, but you can't grab a hold of it. Does that help?
Um,
Hard to get
Sort
hold
of.
of.
So you were saying, if I understood correctly, that that the Earth started with semi-physical beings and then was lowered to fully physical beings?
Earth started out at 12th dimension. And then there was a group of beings from another planet that came to Earth because they wanted to go and mess with it. And they lowered the energy from 12th dimension, one step at a time. Now, the original 12th dimension people said, sure, you all come. We can handle it. But in reality, they didn't handle it. And so step by step by step, the energies were lowered one step at a time and became more and more dense. Think of it as a matter of density.
Okay.
With 12th dimension, there's very little denseness. At third dimension, it's very solid, very dense.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Hal,
hope
for your
that helps.
question. We have Carol with her hands up. Carol, please go ahead.
Hello. Thank you very much for your talk. It was very interesting. Your description of your ascension to higher consciousness or your experience, what you're trying to do, reminds me very much of many traditional concepts that I'm more knowledgeable about. Let's say like archangels, you mentioned archangels, you mentioned chakras, and your schematic of ascent to a higher consciousness reminded me very much of the pathways of the tree of life. Those are many different things. So if you would just pick one and give me this is for me, give me an idea of how you would relate your experience and concepts to a more traditional path, or a path that's known, like in the case of the tree of life, let's say. Thank you.
Oh, you're going to have to give me a lot more to work with. Um,
Well,
I know where I am. I don't know that I can relate it adequately to these other, as you say, traditional ways of going things, because I never went through that traditional. I got when I was when XN came in, I was flipped almost automatically into a new way of seeing things. I did not go through the traditional way.
okay. All right, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol, for your question. Charles, I can't see you because I can't see your hand, but Charles, if you have a question, you could unmute and go ahead, if you will. If you have a question, just unmute. If you don't unmute, I'll understand that you're not going to have a question. Oh, yes, there you go. Well, no, you unmuted and now you're muted again. Let's try to unmute again. Okay, Joel. No, you're going back and forth with unmute and unmute. Unmute now. Unmute now. Yes, now it's unmuted. Charles, keep your voice up. Charles, keep your voice up, please.
Yeah, hi. It was really interesting. I'm not sure if it's an appropriate question, but I'm wondering about the identities of the Gabriel and Michael as archangels compared to as other orders of high spirit beings, if it's relevant for us to know.
Charles, is something in back of you making a lot of noise or talking, or I don't know, something on back of you is interrupting what you're saying?
Oh, sorry. I was just wondering about the Michael and Gabriel, and if they are considered archangels or other orders.
So what is the question?
Why are they called archangels when the Urantia book calls them other orders of being?
Well, the Urantia book has its way of saying things, and what I have been taught is different. That's all. I studied the Urantia book for a number of years, and then I have gone. I went and went. I have been trained now about 10 years by the archangels. So I went through a training process, if you will. And so they look at
Thank you
things.
very much.
They look at things differently than what is in the Urantia book. That's about all I can say.
Thank you, Charles, for your question. Appreciate that. Mark, I have a question for you, and that is that I have been influenced by dreams. The dreams seem to be coming not from me. They seem to be tapping on my shoulder and saying, okay, pay attention. I have a message for you. Do you have any explanation or any idea if that's something that, I mean, I've listened to that. I've actually acted upon what the messages were. And I felt as though the messages were coming not from me, but from another source, and that they were there to say, this is what you need to know now. Have you ever had that experience through a dream-like state?
It doesn't come to me in the dream state, Nick, where I get my best my best messages occur right when I am preparing to go to sleep at night, or when I'm waking up in the morning, when I'm in that somewhat foggy. Okay, so what you may be calling dreams or something might be a communication. Most of my very best communications are when I write. I have auto writing in that my fingers basically are directed on the keyboard to write whatever it is. And so that's the way my best communication happens. But I also have many times stood up in front of an audience and allowed Archangel Michael or Metatron or Archangel Uriel to speak through me to an audience at large. So I have that ability. Um, but I think that all of these things are available to all of us if you think it's okay. Number one, think that it's okay. Number two, believe that you can do this. And then ask for what you would like to have or how, ask, say, well, I'm not getting this. I'd like to have this in some other way. And then be open to it.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Okay, Mark, if it's okay, we could just do a few more questions. Is that all right with you?
That's fine with me.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Doreen, you had your hand up. Please go ahead.
Oh, yes. Mark, I have had experiences and I wanted to ask how, if you understand to interpret it, because I couldn't. What would happen? I used to meditate for about 50 years. So that was easy for me, you know, going deep and deeper. And I know there's the Urantia teaches the stages. First, it's the adjustment, you know, the spirit adjusts your mind and then it leads you. And now it's controlling, but there was another stage in between. So when I used to go very deep, and I think they call it the superconscious level of mind. In that level, I'm not aware of any time, space, or anything, but somebody is teaching me, talking to me, teaching me, and this went on for several years, I would say. But when they dropped me out of that place, I could not remember one thing. Now, I never understood, nobody could answer the question, why give me all this information? And I don't know, I can't remember when I'm back in, you know, normal state of mind. And that was, so I was thinking, maybe you have an answer because maybe those things could have happened to you. Don't know.
The way in which I have solved that is to sit in front of my computer. And as those messages come in, type them out one at a time. Type out the questions, type out the responses, type out the question, type out the response. And you can all, you could, I believe you can see yourself in not a total meditative state, but a semi-meditative state in front of the computer and allow that to happen to you. Try it.
I
Give
will.
it
Yeah.
give it a try. Yeah.
See what happens. Yeah. I just never understood, what are you preparing me for, in other words? It has transformed my life. So what you're saying is quite accurate, how the, you know, fear and separation is gone, and I feel totally loved. And I'm very, as a female anyway, I'm very outgoing, and I talk to everybody and introduce, you know, the higher, not to be afraid and to be more positive in life, you know, and all the good stuff that we have learned. And, you know, there are people receptive, but you can't give to people if they're not hungry to want to know. It's like you can't force feed somebody, you know, at that point. But it's like Jesus engaged people and asked them questions. And that's, to me, was the way I was able to extrapolate some deeper understanding where they're coming from and if they're interested. And so that's how I am able to be effective. And I do it all the time, but it's like it just happens. And I know it must be the angels that bring people to me because I'm not even thinking of it sometimes. I live in a city and all of a sudden the right person comes to me every single time. Did you have these experiences? Do you understand? That's how the archangels work or the seraphim.
Definitely. When I meet someone for the first time, I can usually tell within 2 or 3 words whether or not we're going to have a real conversation or we're going to talk about the weather. Okay. And you know what exactly what I mean.
Yes, yes.
And so yes, and these people come from strange places and people I wouldn't have expected to go and want to discuss things, they'll talk. And
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Well, I've searched, from the time I was a little kid. Why do we exist? I could never understand this horrible world. People are so mean to each other. And I used to, make up somebody in the sky. If you're real, if there is anybody listening to me, this world is horrible. I had bad experiences growing up. So, but little by little, everything, at one point I said, I challenge God, if you are real, this is what I need to survive with, and let it go. But growing up in New York, the streets are great. Your home life doesn't matter. It's two different worlds you live in. And what happened is actually, I forgot what I asked God when I was about 8 years old. And all of a sudden, everything started to happen for me. And it was nothing material, believe me. I only asked for quality and kindness and, just all the things that you need to live a happier person. And and one day I realized when I was older, oh my God, they answered. So there really was a God. And it just progressed after that. Just wonderful, wonderful connection. And I guess is the adversity has to open you up and you have to really want something better and to recognize there is something better. But I challenged it all the time and it came. So that was, the beginning of my story and led me at this age, I'm, quite old. It led me, they say, right, we learn there's a plan for each life. And I saw the beginning and how it led me all along the way. All the adversity was intentional, and I thank God for it. Because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have found meaning in everything that I needed to live and understand. So I'm not worried about death or anything like that. Fear was gone. It didn't matter. So thank you. Thank you. I'll look on your
yeah,
website.
from my perspective, what's going on with you is your soul is speaking.
Yeah.
That's your soul speaking. That's not your physical being. It's
Oh,
not your head. It's your heart that is speaking. And that's where your soul resides. Your soul resides here in your heart. And it's bigger than you are by far, but it is concentrated here. And so when you have those, and Nick, when you have things like that, all of these things are your soul speaking to you. Okay. It's
I
your
totally
soul.
understand that. Carol has a question. Carol, please go ahead and speak up, please.
Okay. I'm just curious. You mentioned that you had more than 200 very positive experiences with ETs, I guess. And that's wonderful. But you had one negative experience. What made you think it was negative and how did you handle it?
Okay, let me explain. I was invited to meet with someone. And you know how if you shake hands with somebody, you look them in the eye?
Yeah.
When I looked this person in his eye, the eyes turned yellow and the irises became vertical like a cat.
Oh, very clear. Yeah.
So I was then captivated by that person for 2 days. And I interacted with them. I don't remember a lot of what we talked about, but they were quite interested in, they wanted me to do something for them. That was back in the time when I was just beginning to talk about, and it was after my first book, and I had put something up on the internet, and they apparently found me that way. And anyway, they invited me, and so but I was unable to do anything. We were I was able to. They kept wanting me to give them money, just give
Oh,
them money, and
yeah.
so they clearly did not understand the function of our society.
I
They didn't
see. Yeah.
understand the function of money or anything like that. Uh, but that was a very favorable, and I was captive. I remember I went. They had me go to a Red Roof Inn to go stay. You go stay there. And I spent all night long, and all night long I had this these messages that this was not the right thing to be doing, but I couldn't do anything. And so yes, so
So you
that
had
was my
guidance. Mhm,
I was captive.
mhm. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol, for your question. Uh, Charles, do you have one more question before we go? Are you there? I guess, okay. All right, well, in that case, then we're gonna wind up.
Actually, no, I'd
Oh, I'm
like,
sorry, oh, Hal, I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
okay, I was raised somewhat in cultures that don't follow the belief systems you're talking about, which, except for the process of reincarnation and learning from that, what I was taught was that you can, you ask the universe, you ask for energies, you ask for growth, but then you give back. So, in the way and from what you're describing, what is the give and take in the situation? Because I was taught that you don't just ask without giving something in return.
All I can think of in terms of what I might give in return is simply to accept what's being offered. Okay, not say, "Oh, that's craziness. I don't want anybody to, get out of my way." No. So, because the information I have from these higher level beings, there's nothing I can give back to them other than say to them, "Okay, I hear you. I have your attention. What can I do to help you?" So
Okay, well,
that's how.
that would be the logical give back. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Good question, Hal. Thank you so much. All right, then with that, we're going to wrap up. Again, Mark, inspiring is the word I'm going to use to underline this incredible hour and a half we had to share with you today. Thank you so much for your talk. And I'd like to put on the table that we're planning to produce in May, the first weekend of May, a conference. And some of that conference is going to be through Zoom. I would love to invite you to do a short talk to the audience we're going to have there. I'll give you more details, of course, as the months go past, but think about that. And also, at some point on your schedule and ours, I'd like to do a part 2.
Let's see if we can do a part 2.
Great. Look forward to that.
Sure, we can do
Again,
that.
to all those people that are looking at this program, if you'd like more information on Disclosure Network New York, our group of researchers all over the world, you can let me know that and I'll give you more information. You can email me at NICKNYNY1, and that's the numeral 1 at gmail.com. Again, NICKNYNY1 at gmail.com, and I'll reply out to you. Again, thank you everyone for being part of this program today. You know you have my love. Thank you so much, and look forward to another discussion. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, thank
Well,
you.
thank you, Mark.
Nick,
Greatly
thank you
appreciate
very much. Nick, thank you very much for putting this together. Nice to meet all of you. We'll hope to see you again.
Indeed.
Take good care, everybody. Bye-bye.
So long.
you.
Bye-bye.